Imagine a world where the post-World War II order is fracturing from within, as European capitals look eastward for new alliances. The global hierarchy, long dominated by the US and Europe, now faces a serious challenge from a rising bloc, the BRICS nations. A European pivot toward BRICS could redraw global influence, ending the unipolar era and ushering in a multipolar world. Economic gravity has shifted to the east and global south, where former developing nations now drive growth and innovation. For some Europeans, sticking only with traditional partners feels like managed decline, while BRICS offers an alternative vision for global governance. The idea of Europe aligning with BRICS, once unthinkable, is now a real possibility discussed in diplomatic circles. This story explores the forces behind this shift and the difficult choices facing a continent at a crossroads. BRICS started as an investment term in 2001, grouping Brazil, Russia, India, and China, later joined by South Africa. Initially dismissed as a loose collection, BRICS has rapidly evolved, especially after its 2024 expansion to include Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Now, BRICS Plus represents nearly half the world's population and rivals the G7 in economic power. The bloc is building its own institutions, like the New Development Bank, to challenge Western financial dominance and promote lending in local currencies. De-dollarization is central to BRICS' strategy, aiming to reduce vulnerability to US sanctions. BRICS also pushes for UN reform and a multipolar world order less dominated by the West. Despite internal diversity, BRICS members share a desire for a more equitable global system. This shared vision is fueling the bloc's growing appeal. Europe's identity is anchored in alliances forged after World War II, NATO and the European Union. NATO's US-backed security guarantee allowed Europe to focus on economic integration, while the EU created the world's largest single market and a shared political project. These institutions have defined Europe's global role for generations, with foreign policy and security closely tied to the transatlantic partnership. The Western-centric system fostered stability and prosperity, but now shows signs of strain. Reliance on US security is questioned amid shifting American priorities, and Europe's economic growth lags behind Asia. Internal challenges, Brexit, populism, and policy disputes test EU cohesion. As pressures mount, the once unthinkable idea of seeking partners beyond the West is gaining traction. Europe stands at a moment of reevaluation. Europe's growing interest in BRICS is rooted in a mix of economic pragmatism, the pursuit of greater strategic autonomy, and mounting frustration with the limitations of the current global financial system. As the world becomes more multipolar, European leaders are increasingly aware that relying solely on traditional Western alliances may not serve their long-term interests. BRICS plus nations represent some of the world's fastest-growing markets, and they are becoming absolutely essential for export-driven European economies that are seeking new growth opportunities beyond their established partners. Recent trade data clearly shows that Europe's most dynamic and rapidly expanding economic relationships are with China, India, and other emerging economies within the BRICS group. These ties are reshaping the continent's trade landscape. The idea of strategic autonomy, Europe acting independently from the US, is gaining significant traction, especially as American foreign policy becomes less predictable and sometimes even at odds with European interests. Engaging with BRICS offers Europe valuable leverage and flexibility in global affairs. It's not about abandoning the West, but about expanding options and building new partnerships to better navigate a changing world. Hungary's Eastern opening policy and President Macron's outreach to BRICS leaders are clear signals of a broader trend across Europe, where countries are actively seeking to diversify their diplomatic and economic ties. Italian business leaders, too, are increasingly looking eastward, seeing real opportunity in China's Belt and Road Initiative and the expanding BRICS market, which promise new investments and access to emerging consumers. Many Europeans are growing frustrated with the dominance of US-controlled financial systems and the impact of extraterritorial sanctions, which can hurt European businesses and limit their global reach. The BRICS push for de-dollarization and the creation of new financial institutions is quietly but increasingly attractive to European policymakers and businesses seeking alternatives. For some in Europe, collaborating more closely with BRICS could help insulate the continent from sudden US policy shifts and provide a buffer against global economic volatility. Ultimately, this shift is about supplementing, not replacing Europe's traditional alliances. By looking east, Europe is aiming to secure a more balanced, resilient, and prosperous future in an increasingly complex world. The Western Bloc, comprising NATO and the European Union, relies on a foundation of shared values, deep economic and political integration, and robust formal institutions. These alliances have been built over decades, rooted in a common commitment to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Its greatest strength lies in ideological cohesion, which fosters trust, enables collective security, and allows for coordinated responses to global challenges. This unity has helped the West maintain stability and influence on the world stage. BRICS, by contrast, is a flexible coalition united primarily by shared interests rather than common values. It brings together both democracies and autocracies, making it a unique and diverse group. This diversity allows for a broader range of perspectives, but also presents challenges in reaching consensus. While this diversity limits the depth of integration seen in the West, it makes BRICS attractive to countries in the global South who are wary of Western conditionality and eager for alternatives to traditional power structures. Economically, the Western Bloc still leads in finance, advanced technology, and innovation. However, BRICS Plus is expanding rapidly, representing a larger share of the world's population and natural resources, and showing impressive growth rates in key sectors. In fact, BRICS' share of global GDP, measured in purchasing power parity, now surpasses that of the G7, signaling a significant shift in economic influence and global dynamics. The Western Bloc aims to preserve the current international order, maintaining established institutions and rules. In contrast, BRICS seeks to reform this order, building alternative institutions, promoting local currencies, and advocating for a more inclusive system. BRICS envisions a more multipolar world, not to destroy the existing system but to renovate and rebalance it, giving greater voice to emerging economies and developing nations. Ultimately, these two blocs represent competing visions for the future of global power, each shaping the international landscape in its own way. Europe now finds itself caught between these models, carefully weighing its options as it considers its next move in an increasingly complex world. The global map now shows overlapping interests, with new trade corridors linking Europe and BRICS nations, bypassing traditional Western routes. BRICS' 2024 expansion gave it control over key energy choke points, the Strait of Hormuz, Suez Canal, and Arctic routes. This concentration of power has major implications for Europe, which relies on these corridors for energy and trade. Pivoting toward BRICS risks straining Europe's relationship with the US and weakening NATO. Washington would see deeper European engagement with BRICS as a challenge to its leadership. Europe faces a balancing act, maintaining US security ties while pursuing economic opportunities with BRICS. The potential rewards, new markets, supply chains, and influence are significant. The challenge is finding equilibrium in a complex geopolitical landscape. The post-Cold War era of Western dominance is over. A new chapter in global politics is unfolding as a multipolar world emerges, led by the rapid rise and growing influence of BRICS plus nations. These countries are not only expanding their economic power, but also reshaping the rules of international engagement and cooperation. Europe now faces a complex landscape filled with both significant challenges and unique opportunities as it tries to balance its long-standing alliance with the United States against the undeniable economic pull and strategic importance of BRICS. The continent must weigh its historical ties with the West against the potential benefits of engaging with emerging powers. Countries like Hungary and France are already hedging their bets, seeking to diversify their partnerships and investments. This reflects a broader shift within Europe as more nations reconsider their positions in a rapidly changing world. A major pivot toward BRICS could fracture Western unity and force tough choices for European leaders, potentially leading to internal divisions. However, ignoring this global shift risks stagnation, missed opportunities, and even irrelevance on the world stage. Europe stands at a historic fork in the road, with its next step set to shape not only its own future, but also the broader global order for decades to come. The old Western-centric system is gradually fading, being replaced by a new multipolar reality where influence is shared among several powerful blocs. Europe's search for new partnerships and alliances brings both exciting opportunities for growth and innovation, as well as significant risks that could reshape its economic and political landscape. Ultimately, the outcome will depend on the vision, adaptability, and choices of leaders across the continent as they navigate this period of profound transformation. The central question remains, will the world split into rival blocs, deepening divisions, or can a more inclusive and cooperative order emerge, with multiple centers of power working together for shared prosperity?